This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, heroes and villains, there are those who stand for justice, and those who stand only against the New World Order. This is Falcon and Winter Soldier, Nuff Said. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz, welcome back tonight. Tonight, we are discussing Falcon and Winter Soldier, New World Order, Season 1, Episode 1. Director is Kerry Stogland. Writers are Malcolm Spellman. Malcolm Spellman gets our created by credit for this episode. And, of course, Gene Colan gets our gets our created by for the Falcon, Sam Wilson the Falcon. Jack Kirby gets of course Bucky Barnes and Captain America created by they're cutting Joe Simon out on that one. Yeah, man. There he is. He's actually after Stan Lee. Okay, so it goes Jack Kirby. Stan Lee also gets credit on Sam Wilson the Falcon. And then Joe Simon gets the Bucky Barnes, Captain America. Oh, I see. See, they're listing the artists first, Gene Colan and Jack Kirby, then the writers, Stan and Joe. And then, of course, Malcolm Spellman is our head writer for this series. Steve Epting and Ed Brubaker created the Winter Soldier character, though, obviously, that's Bucky Barnes. So it's an interesting question how you divvy up those details. We get none of the actual, usual writing credits on this, but, they usually hold those off a bit on the first episode. Of course, Wyatt Russell we see at the very end as our John Walker. Sebastian Stan is Bucky Barnes / the Winter Soldier. Anthony Mackie is Sam Wilson Falcon. Don Cheadle is James Rhodes, War Machine. Joaquin Torres is Denny Ramirez. And Georges Saint-Pierre is Georges Bacharach. So we got a full house here, my friend.
I'm glad that wasn't spoiled for me when I heard the show was around. I was like, it has something to do with Captain America. Man, I hope we get some more GSP in there. And right away, and I was like, yes, GSP's back. And then I was like, oh my God, they just blew him up. And I was like, well, no, of course he's the one that was that got away. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
so he's going to be around for a while, and I'm super excited about that.
Oh, no, you're not going to kill Batroc. Batroc, here's the thing. They have given such love to Batroc in the comics of late. I think people want George St. Pierre to stay around. George St. Pierre definitely wants to stay around. He says, I really want to do more. I'm telling you, George, come in one day with the mustache. Oh, I thought I would try it, see what people thought. Maybe it looks good, huh? And they'll find work for you, my friend. They'll find work for you.
That's right.
My tip to you. But yeah, it was so. And this is so okay. So we gotta talk. Everyone says, "Oh, we're going to get Cap's funeral in this because we see, Falcon, he's in a dark suit. He's got the shield. Is this a da-da-da?" No, that's not what that is, but that is the misdirect you get. And then after the first scene where you see that, we jump right to Sam working with the Air Force. He is basically doing private contract. Basically, he's a soldier for hire. He is, a private contractor soldier. Working for the U.S. government, basically doing things that the U.S. government really can't be seen doing.
Right, and it was my understanding that contractors were paid pretty well especially for the kind of contract work that he's doing.
Well, and that is the thing, is he does, and we get to that, when we get to what is
like, isn't there $12 trillion missing from the Pentagon exactly to pay for this kind of thing?
Well, I don't know if it's missing. It's just
no. It's missing from the budget. It's missing from being allocated and being accounted for. In that sense, it's missing, but it's being applied in uses that generally for the most part I think I support. But it's these kind of things. So I imagine these people must be paid really well.
Yeah, well, they are paid. Well, and okay, so there's a couple of levels on all of this.
Right.
There is and yes, contractors do get paid well. They do get paid better than the military.
Shouldn't the Avengers have been, reasonably compensated for what was it again? Oh, that's right, saving the world.
A couple of times, yes. Although arguably from problems they also cause. So
I mean, it's a domino effect, and if you want to take it far back enough, all I know is that we wouldn't be here were it not for them.
Well, here's what I will say. This goes into basically when you get to that loan scene, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't want to jump. And obviously it is, like I said, never before in the history of comics has been applying for a small business loan made so well. I mean, it's just like this thing where you are part of this story, and you want that small business loan scene in there. It's like, oh, they're gonna go talk numbers and be in a no. I want to see Sam Wilson go to the bank. I want to see him produce his records for the past 5 years. What was blipped? I don't have records. It's like, yeah, I know that's kind of the problem. Lots of people had it, and here's the thing. And okay, so let's jump to the meaty part of the issue here. Sam's sister, who has been keeping the family business literally afloat, because they're apparently fishermen, for the last 5 years, with basically duct tape and hope, has finally reached the end of it. She can't leverage anything. She has to sell stuff in order to not lose the house. And that means really selling the business because, she can probably work as a fisher on someone else's boat, but maintaining a boat that doesn't run doesn't make any sense after they've spent all this money just to keep it running in a world where, as we've said, for 5 years, demand dropped. So suddenly there was a surplus of everything. And then once that surplus was gone, you got to that point where, okay, we can maintain. But then suddenly demand rose suddenly, but you don't have the infrastructure to care for it, which actually means that the people that can achieve in that environment becomes the Roxxons and these major corporations with their fingers in every pie that are going to build out and achieve in that moment because they're the only ones that can ramp up that fast. And all these little moms and pops that we're doing for the smaller market are getting swamped, especially when they can't, get the funds to fix the boat and look for other business models that they can then move into that aren't as lucrative for Roxanne, but would be lucrative for them. But at the same time, you have this problem that, half the world just came back. Half the world is stuck without a lot of things. I mean, arguably you could say, well, hey, you have 5 years of interest on whatever bank account you had. But first off, that's usually not that much. And, it's not, unless you had, 50 grand in the bank when you blipped, you're probably still kind of in a bad spot.
Right. And that's not a good look for a bank to be like a blip profiteer,
Yeah, but more to the point, and this is actually where being an Avenger actually hurts Falcon even more. Because yes, he has government contracts. He is making money. But strike one, he was one of the blipped. Strike two, even if he hadn't been blipped, he is in a high-risk profession that is going to very likely get killed. And, well, now here's the thing. Here's what I'll tell you. Had he actually been taking up the mantle of Captain America, maybe there might have been more to it. But then again, I don't think, aside from Cap saying be Captain America, I don't think anyone else was there Cap gave him a shield.
Right, and the establishment seemed sort of upset about that. They sort of didn't want him to take up the mantle, and they wanted to give it to their own guy, and they were really glad when he turned his shield in. Like, yes. So now we don't have to put out an arrest warrant. Thank you for returning our property that we're just going to say you were holding it. That's the feeling I got.
They trick him into giving it to the Smithsonian.
Right.
But to be fair, he wasn't using it.
Right.
And that was the thing. They didn't want to go and take it from him because obviously, that's what Cap wanted. And, you don't want him on his moon base looking down on you and saying, that's not what I said to do with my shield. That's Sam's shield. So, what is interesting about the idea and the story as a whole is, and this is why I love the bank loan scene, because, yes, he was out for 5 years. Avengers don't make a salary, which is something, and
that's my point. Shouldn't they be? Aren't they contractors? So
and I'm going to give you the actual answer to how that works. First off, the Avengers aren't contractors, but they probably had room, board, and living expenses provided by whatever group they were working with, in the same way that, because this was actually this thing with, when Spider-Man first tries to join the Fantastic Four, and I think that's an amazing Spider-Man #1. Or actually, I think it's technically Amazing Spider-Man #15, because they continued the Amazing Fantasy story from 14 to 15, if I'm remembering correctly. And so he gets his origin in Amazing Fantasy, and then his first adventure is in Amazing Spider-Man, and he goes to the Fantastic Four to try and join them, and he makes this point. It's like, I think, because of my skills, I should get the top salary. I'm worth of whatever your best salary is. And then basically, the thing says, what do you think this is? General Motors? We don't get paid a salary. We live here and we work here, and we're scientists and we're adventurers. We're not putting widgets on lug nuts. Is basically his point of view. Now, in the great what if Spider-Man had joined the Fantastic Four, Reed says, well, you know what, Ben, I've actually been thinking maybe I should give you guys more money for beyond our living expenses, because quite frankly, we do make money at this deal. And that's the thing, because obviously Stark was licensing all of the heroes. You do see that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there is a massive toy line of all of the Avengers. You see the Hulk and the Cap toys and all these things. So obviously someone was profiting off of this.
Right. And wouldn't it be a good idea to make sure your heroes are well provided for, so that they never fall prey to temptation, because they're going to be in contact with, and you want to make sure that they're not in any desperate situation.
And here's the thing. I would wager that they probably largely were when they were on Compound. I think that when they wanted to send out for tacos, no one said no. Yeah, just expensive, get tacos, do what you need. You needed cash, we'll make it work. We'll do what we have to do. But remember that Falcon went rogue. So first Falcon went rogue, which means he cut himself off from that big Stark money. Then he comes back just as Stark snaps, and, our condolences. Do you still get paid from that? And it's like, well, maybe not so much. Maybe we don't have an Avengers Foundation at the moment, or there's not a government contract with the Avengers for this, because we do know that that Thunderbolt Ross, who was Secretary of State, maybe is the president now, we don't know, has basically sees the rebel Avengers as persona non grata. So there's the real possibility that, a lot of these guys are going to find themselves on the wrong side of whatever government teat there might be. Essentially, from the government's point of view, they do not want Sam Wilson for a lot of reasons, but one of which is that, when we did ask you to just sign this piece of paper to say that you're going to work within our laws and our agreements, that you were going to be cool with that, you said no. And when you say no, it's like, well, okay, you don't want to sign the paper, we can't really be working with you. It's, and it's, and that's sort of this, if you ever work in a hospital, they will tell you, if you don't do this thing, if you don't get the shot, you can't work on the floor. If you don't have a reason to get this and do not take these precautions that we've set for you, you can't work on the floor. You need this paperwork in order to work on the floor. That is literally how most organizations work in these kinds of situations. And, for what it's worth, superheroes don't have a union yet, There's not the first United Brotherhood of superhumans in the Marvel Universe, although maybe there should be.
Or a Vought.
Yes. Well, see, now Vought, and again, I will wager to you that Vought doesn't. Well, actually, no. They do seem to pay them. They have license because they're kicking back on the licensing agreements. So Vaught's handling the license agreements. Vaught's taking money on it and giving them, and even if it's 10%, but 10% of this. But then, of course, if Vaught's the one negotiating
royalties from the movies and whatnot,
Yeah. But then again, I don't know if Stark was doing that, because Stark was probably doing it on some level. That there was probably some licensing agreements they did, but not enough. And for what it's worth, it's a situation where if those if a Hulk toy can't be copywritten because the Hulk is a public figure, there's an argument that says that anyone can make a Hulk toy in the same way that you could make like a Richard Nixon toy, without having to pay Richard Nixon a royalty to make a Richard Nixon toy.
Okay, I'm reminded of a documentary I watched on Metallica, and when they replaced Jason Newsted, right, with Robert Trujillo, the new bass player. So when Robert Trujillo joined the band, the first thing they did was when they told him they got the job, he's like, here's $1 million. Now you're part of Metallica. Now your life is going to be different, but here's $1 million to get you started. I imagine something like that was happening with every new Avenger. Like when he signed on Spider-Man, he said, hey, here's $1 million. Now you're an Avenger. Everything is cool. You don't have anything to worry about. Now you can just focus on being an Avenger.
No, because for what it's worth, first off, as Tony Stark would say, you don't get to be a billionaire by giving $1 million to everybody. He's basically going to, these Iron Man suits don't build themselves.
I know, but he's selling, baby killing, weapons of mass destruction.
Not
it's
anymore.
Okay.
Now he's selling spark forge, which is actually even more lucrative. So,
he's all right. It's like $1 million here and there for 50 Avengers, $50 million a year. I mean, that's nothing.
No, it's nothing. But at the same time, you don't want it to be all about the money. After all,
no, I understand that, but you don't want a Hawkeye being tempted because he can't pay for his, daughter's surgery or something.
Well, yeah, but that's where
break bad because his sister can't keep a rinky-dink boat afloat.
But that is where if he had stayed with the company.
But yeah,
and stayed
but to that point, it's like I imagine Stark was taking care of his people. Because I imagine he had enough foresight to see things like that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But that is literally the thing. It's like, had he stayed with the company, maybe he wouldn't be in this situation.
I know, I dig it. But for those that did, I imagine Stark was doing some sort of thing.
Well, as one can point out, Vision sided with Stark. Vision bought a house. So let's call a shelter half an entrenching tool. Vision.
Yeah.
Vision got a house. Vision doesn't even have a birth certificate. He got a house. Now, granted, he does have a great British accent.
Indeed.
And he does make himself white when he does put on his human face. So
that's
the other aspect of this story that is ingrained within it. My favorite thing we see in this, well, not one of my, so my favorite Easter egg in this is when Bucky has his nightmare, which he does not admit is a nightmare, but I'm sure it was. Because you don't remember the time you murdered that innocent person and not say that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I wonder if the way he justifies that statement in his mind is that if this really happened, it is not a nightmare, it is just a memory. Like a nightmare would have been an imagined horrible thing. If this is something that really happened, it's not really a nightmare, it's just a memory resurfacing. So he can feel like he's not lying to her when he says, I didn't have a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that is classic deflection.
Right.
And that is what Bucky does throughout the entire thing. I know there are people that are mad at his therapist. I'm telling you right now, that therapist was spot on. You have a deflecting, obstinate client, you don't handle them with kid gloves. You've got to be direct with them. You got to throw the ashtray at them and say, you're not a freaking dog.
And we weren't privy to all the other techniques, softer techniques that she may have tried before we got to this point.
Exactly. And what I will say is, when it comes to that moment, it is when he takes that life, but when he wakes up this is the thing that I love, is we see him that he is sleeping on the floor, which of course is a reference to Winter Soldier, when that's what gave that bonding with Sam and Cap, when he says, it's your bed, isn't it? You can't sleep on it because you're so used to sleeping on on a hard surface, you can't fall asleep. It's like, it's like a marshmallow. And here we see Bucky in his little Spartan apartment sleeping on the floor with a football game in the back. Now, where this red-blooded American, that's that Soviet influence. That's the Hydra influence. Now he's a soccer fan. He grew up in Brooklyn, man. Dodgers. That's what he should be watching. I don't know. I'm making a joke there. It's football fans of the world, don't get mad at me. And you know what? He may have been watching the Dodgers fall asleep, and then you're watching ESPN. Eventually, it's gonna turn to football because it is the most popular game in the world. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, he wakes up, and he's on the floor because he can't sleep in a bed. He can't sleep comfortably because he is still out of it. Because, as he says, the only time he ever had comfort was in Wakanda. He had a couple of, had a brief moment of peace when I was in Wakanda. And then they pull me back, they pull me back into wars and they pull me back into fighting, I was a fighter. I was a killer. I was a killer with my mind controlled. And then I finally got to have peace. And then someone says, oh no, you don't get to have peace. You got to come back and fight. And there is this aspect of that. It's like, what if Bucky really did just want to go home for a bit? What if he wants to retire? What if he's a little mad at Cap that, oh, you're retiring now, huh? Okay, good for you. You ever think I want to retire? Can I have a quantum leaping thing go?
It seems like that's what the therapist is suggesting that he does do, but he doesn't want to do that because he has some list that he needs to wipe off, or it's like, I can't hear you.
There we go.
Yep.
Yes, he has a list because he has to make amends.
Right. So he doesn't want to chill. He doesn't want to relax. That's what the whole world is trying to convince him to do.
He has to make amends. But how he makes amends is his choice.
No. That's again deflection. Thinking that you want to be this person that the world thinks you should be, this peaceful blah blah blah. But deep down inside, you recognize that you crave the fight just as much. You can't let it go just as much as as much as you'd want to. So
unless the fight is the distraction for him, that basically, to put it into all these other terms, it's way easier to be an Avenger than to get a small business loan. That if you want to just adventure, you can go be an Avenger. You can go do these things. He can get the, that government contract work. I'm sure the government is going to be more than happy to say, oh, you would like to do work for us? Come right along,
Yeah.
And be a part of what we have to do as far as thwarting evil, or maybe not so evil, but you don't need to know that.
I guess maybe that's maybe that's what's getting him down, is that it is no longer possible for him to be comfortable in that space anymore, that he is, malformed to a degree that cannot be.
He's got severe PTSD, and he is resistant to therapy. That is really what it is. He doesn't want to admit that he needs help, that he needs friends, that he needs a support system. He wants to say, I can do it on my own. I can just be my solitary lone wolf. And, his psychiatrist is saying, no, you can't. And it is interesting when he does go out on his date. And, and for what it's worth, like and again, this is one of these moments where I'm just like dealing with every, Marvel, they just make these light, airy, jokey films. It's like, have you watched any of these things? Have you seen, this man has befriended the father of an innocent he killed because he cannot figure out, how do I make amends to this guy? And that's really what it is. It's like, you know what? I don't think I can make amends with this guy. I don't think there's a way for me to...
There's also a measure of masochism in that. Like, he feels like he's flagellating himself for his sins by constantly being around a reminder of what he was and how terrible that was. Well, like, I deserve to feel bad, so I'm going to be around this guy, so I constantly remind myself of how bad that was.
Yeah, I get the feeling what he's trying to do is to say, well, I'll be his son. I'll show up. I'll make sure he's okay. I'll make sure he's okay. I'll make sure that, the way a son would, that, and for what it's worth, he doesn't have a father. Interesting that he says he has a sister. And at first thought he says he has 4 sisters, but actually what he says is 4F. Because when he's on the date with the woman and they're playing Battleship, and he says, and she says, do you have any family? Says, do you have parents? No, they're dead. And he says, I have a sister. Then he says 4F, which I thought he was saying 4 of them. Oh. On my third watching, he said, oh no, he says 4F. So I thought he said he had 4 sisters. Actually, he says 1 sister. But, I'm sure we're going to find out that she married Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones, that somewhere along the line, that's how we're going to get Rick Jones into this. And that's why they look exactly like Bucky Barnes. It's just fun comic book lore about, that this teenage sidekick always looks like Bucky, and there's Jack Monroe, who looks exactly like Bucky, and then Rick Jones, who also, as luck would have it, looked exactly like Bucky. So, just a weird thing in comics, though. For what it's worth, people looking exactly like each other in comics is a real trope where they exploit it all the time. It's like, why, you look exactly alike. We just have to put a different wig on you. And, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, so he does have a sister, and I do want to see if he ever looks up what happened to his family. Because he says his parents are dead. He doesn't say his sister is dead. Right. But then again, it may also be that his sister has passed on, because it has been, as he says, 100 years. He's 104. Oh,
right.
But his sister might have had a family. So his sister might have had a family, and lived a whole life. And now, usually in most stories, his parents are dead by the time he joins the army. But you may also have this idea that, yes, maybe his parents died before because if his parents died before he joined the army, then his parents, that he was an orphan. And so it's like, when we get to that idea of there's a word for a child who lost their parents, but not a word for a parent who lost their child, that it's a very hard thing to understand and comprehend. And so, again, that feeds into that idea that maybe he wants to be wants to sort of be, as much as he can, this guy's son. Which is hard. And for what it's worth, he's probably at least somewhat close to a contemporary of him.
Right. At first, it took me a while to put two and two together. I initially thought, oh, this is probably an old man that was friends with him, or when he was younger, and like he's still the same age. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing.
Well, there could, and for what it's worth, we haven't gotten all the reveals yet. It may be both.
Fair
that
enough.
This actually was his friend. That this was, a guy he knew from the war, who's still alive, although then again he'd probably also be in his hundreds. I think he's not there yet. I think he's actually only in his 80s, because he makes a point that no one made, because he's reading the obituaries, and it's like, man, no one made it to the 90s this week, and they say such a waste, which either means they're both really old, or he's getting to, and he's like, he wants to make it to the 90s. He thinks, I got to make it at least to 90, right? Anyway, I do love the date scene. There's going to be a lot of talk about the woman saying, "I'm reading your mind," because she's clearly wiping the floor with him. So mutants confirmed that's Psylocke, but yeah. It would be an interesting idea, but the idea that, she's just really she's good at reading people and all that kind of stuff. But,
or this is somebody keeping tabs on him, because that's a very intelligence service thing to do.
Which, fun fact, I was having this whole conversation with people, because, the whole Steve and Agent 13, Sharon Carter thing. It's like, Steve didn't even know who she was. But just, this person has a cute meet on his first day in the new apartment. Just as, because obviously, we put your ex-girlfriend's niece across the hall from you because we thought you would, because they were trying to enmesh Steve, make sure that he had a person that could keep tabs on, and to arguably, as I always say, this goes to my Rick Jones conspiracy, that basically they keep on creating these people who look exactly like Bucky Barnes expressly because they realize the best way to control a superhero is to control their sidekick, because they will die for their sidekick, and they will do whatever they need to do for their sidekick. So if you can control the sidekick, you can control the hero. And that's how this guy, who just happens to all have the same face, keeps on showing up with the Hulk, with Captain America, with Captain Marvel. You just move them all right next to him. Say, gee willikers, Captain Marvel, I'd be happy to wear those nega bands. It's just fun with Rick Jones. But anyway, so yeah, there is.
So who is this new Captain America?
So that is John Walker.
And why did they pick the goofiest looking guy they could find? He does not look like he belongs in a Captain America suit. It's just like, he just looks, I mean, not that he's a strange looking, but
okay, so here's what I'm going to say. Wyatt Russell, and this is Kurt Russell's son.
Ugh.
And he looks a lot like Kurt Russell, but he's got
like a howdy doody Kurt Russell.
Yes, well, this is why he usually has a beard. And he looks much better with a beard.
Like that does not look like an inspiring figure. He just looks like a bad cosplayer.
I think they intentionally shot him to look like that. I think they intentionally created this to make so John Walker. And to be fair, if you look at a lot of shots of Wyatt Russell, he actually does look the part. You see him with his beard shaved short. He looks like Kurt Russell, and you know Kurt Russell, the man's a living legend. Snake Plissken,
and Ego.
Yeah, and Ego. Yes, that's old. Then even as old Ego, he still looked the part.
Right. You put old Kurt Russell in that suit, and I might have bought it a little bit more. As it stands, he just like I just kept hearing a guffaw in my mind.
Well, yes. And like I said, I think that was shot intentionally to maximize
that effect. Well, man, man, did they succeed.
Yeah, well, and it's
have they given this poor sap any serum, or is he just out there like pretending?
No. He's juiced. He's juiced. Just like the Flag Smasher.
Man, the juice did nothing for his jaw.
Well, you don't have a lot of muscles in your jaw.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just man.
It's all bone, man. Okay. Yes, I will. Here's what I will say. Here's what I'm going to tell you. A lot of handsome guys don't have a lantern jaw. The lantern jaw is a very rare thing. I was blessed with it, but even you, handsome as you are,
casting another Captain America. Well, I mean, unless you're purposely trying to make him look like a dweeb, I don't know.
Well, and again, it all depends on how you shoot him, because he is cut, he is ripped, and if they had shot him head on, they intentionally shot him upwards which basically, anytime you shoot up a guy's nose, it's usually meant to emphasize the weakness of his chin.
Huh.
And so and the idea, like I said, okay, to bring the racial politics into it, they were telegraphing to people, he's a nice white boy.
Gotcha.
Because here's what I'm tell you, if you had shot Anthony Mackie from the exact same angle, he's also going to look pretty dweeby in that mask.
Right.
Because the way they did the mask was pretty dweeby.
Right. And not to pull us off point, but I also, I loved the new Justice League. It was awesome. But one thing that really kept bugging me is, I'm sure they could have found a more flattering angle to shoot Batman. He looked like a chubby mess in most of those shots. Even though he was all big and bulky, but he just looked like a chubby bad thing. It just looked like a stocky,
I think they both
congested.
What's funny, it's funny that you would say that, because I was actually thinking how good Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne looked.
Right. Especially in the final scene, the post-credit scene where he slimmed down and looked more like a normal person. I was like, man, that Batman would have been great. His jawline looked great. The angles of his cheekbones looked great. Like it would have looked great under the cowl. But as it is, he just looked like a.
Zack Snyder did not want to do a Batman movie. He didn't want to do a Superman movie. He wanted to do a Cyborg movie. So Cyborg, I'm guessing. I haven't finished the whole thing. I've only gotten through the first two parts. Yeah. I'm sorry. I can't just dedicate 4 hours of my life to watching a movie at this point in my life, unfortunately. I would love to. I will probably try and finish it today and then do a rewatch and then maybe one more.
It gets even better. Like the second half.
I'm sure it does. I'm actually pretty pleased with what I've seen. I mean, my biggest problems are a lot of fridge logic stuff. I don't know why Darkseid's met at Steppenwolf, because it looks like Darkseid was the one who screwed up the first invasion.
Oh, I don't know. They said something about. Well, you'll see. I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
I'll see. Yeah. I'm only at 2.
I did. Yeah. The opening scene though with Diana with Wonder Woman was amazing.
Oh no,
and those
Wonder Woman was great.
Oh my! Those sequences were so cool. Where she's super speeding it.
Wonder Woman is great. The Amazons, I was not a fan of.
Really?
The Amazon, I mean, it was dramatic, but I just felt like there was so much, like I said,
did they not seem effective enough, or did you?
Okay, so, and this is a whole other thing I was talking about online earlier. So there's 2 views of the Amazons, which is the Spartan view and the Athenian view. And the Athenian view is what we got in the 2 Wonder Woman films. And the Spartan view, and again, Zack Snyder obviously loves the Spartans, is what we're getting here. And the Spartan view, except at the same time, I kind of feel like he's not committing to the Spartan view, because when the Queen is running with the Mother Box, so spoilers for this, she's helping people she knows are doomed. Because we see, all those Amazons that were still inside the temple, they're all dead now. They're all dead. But she's still trying to help them for some reason. When, no, your job is to get that out. Right. You gotta get this out and get away. That's your job as a Spartan, is to
you shouldn't need to be convinced to do it. Is what you're saying?
Exactly. And so that was weird to me. And
I kind of see what you're saying, but maybe they were trying to illustrate the point to us so we don't question her decision by making that other Amazon say, honor us, seal it. So we understood that maybe it was a little bit of, Could have done better.
Yeah, I get that a little bit, but it made her seem a lot. Like I said,
I could see that.
Here's what I'll say. That's the Athenian view, which basically shows the weakness of it. If you want to tell the Spartan view, and that's the thing. It's like I got the feeling that he wanted to do the Spartan view, but he like I said, to me, it kind of felt like he hurt the Amazon, the interpretation of the Amazons in it. But like I said, I'm only 2 parts in it, and I'm not even halfway through the show, which is like weird to me. It's like, wait, it just said part 2, part 1, part 2. There's part 3 and part 4, so I'm guessing those get longer as they go.
Yeah. Part 5 is where it really takes off.
Oh, there's a 5 parts?
Yeah.
How many parts are there? I thought there was only 4 parts.
6.
Oh, 6 parts. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it only had 2 more parts to go. Okay, but 6 parts.
No.
Yeah. I actually think they really should have broken this up. I think it would have been great had they done it as 6 episodes.
I mean, you're able to if you'd like to. I mean, that's how some people.
No, I understand that, but I think if they had released it on every Thursday, this is going to drop.
Oh, I don't know. I really enjoyed.
I think they would have had the. Here's what I'm going to tell you: 6 weeks from now, no one's going to be talking about this.
Yeah, that's fine. And some things you don't need it. It was a movie, and you're meant to to binge watch it. Anyway, certain things are meant to be seen that way, and I'm happy for it. I mean, it would have been nice to have the elaboration and the blah 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 in between. But man, I was engrossed the whole way. As soon as it ended, I was like, oh, I can't believe I get to go right into it.
I am engrossed.
Yeah.
If I could have watched this beginning to end, I absolutely would have so far. Because I'm like, oh wow. I was actually shocked when the first one ended.
It didn't drag at all for me. I was 2.5 hours in, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad this isn't over yet.
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued by what he's doing. I just feel like, again, I think he's got great visuals. I never doubted his visuals. I know his visuals are chef's kiss. He is actually great. Anyone who's seen. Like I said, even if you hate Watchmen, you got to admit Watchmen is a beautiful film.
Yeah.
I actually like Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. It's just as a storyteller that I worry about it. And again, it comes down to what is the inevitable comparison. I have 6 hours of my day to spend. Do I want to spend it watching Justice League, or do I want to watch the Falcon and Winter Soldier for the 4th time? And, a lot of times I'm like, I kind of want to go back. Now, I'm a Marvel fan at my base, so I do have that prejudice. I'm not going to deny it. But going back to Falcon and Winter Soldier for the 4th time, I'm seeing so much more, and I'm wanting so much more. And especially because I can't go to the next one, I'm just going back and watching the same thing over and over, which is beneficial to Disney. That I just keep that because they don't have to spend any extra money. That I watched it 6 times.
With Justice League, they don't really have a plan for the future that depends on this. So this is it. This is like a redo, a mulligan. And so they're just like, they don't really have anything to build towards. So maybe
except that obviously Zack Snyder is pushing for that.
I hope he does. I
mean, I don't mind it if he does. I mean, I don't like a lot of the choices that what I've heard about the sequels. I don't like the choices he's made. I don't like the idea of Lois and Bruce together after Clark is back.
Yeah,
I never liked his Clark to start with. It was funny. Someone was saying what's a better version of this than the version that exists? Like someone was saying, this is a better Bond. Like Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a better Bond than Bond. Kind of an idea. And I basically said
we don't know him very much as Clark.
Well, exactly. I think that's
like professional Clark, how he interacts with the world as an adult, what his job is like. Is he good at his job or not? Because the sense you got from Christopher Reeve's Superman, well, you got a good deal of understanding of who Clark was and how he dealt with the world and how he managed the image of Clark and that he was maybe a good journalist. You don't really get much of that side of him explored.
So what I get from Zack Snyder's view is he's very much into the last son of Krypton idea. You know, that and the idea of the impossible loneliness of being the last son of Krypton. And I kind of felt like, you know who actually did this better than Zack Snyder was Hancock. That Hancock is a better Man of Steel than Man of Steel because I actually, and again, now, unpopular opinion, I liked Hancock.
I did too. I thought it was a good movie.
But I also felt that it really embraced the idea of, like, what if you were the last of your kind and you were omnipotent, but you don't want to rule the world, you know? But everyone also says, well, you have all this power. Why don't you help people? And you do, right, on the regular. But at the same time, you're also like, you know what? It's only so much fun for you, you know?
That movie it immediately made me think of Superman 3, when Superman turned, bad or apathetic or whatever.
Which again, is which is why that's my favorite, because it is where Superman has to deal with the two realities of, look, you know, yes, I could do whatever I wanted, but I actually have a moral center that says, don't just do what you want. Which is, you know, and this is like, here's the thing. Tomorrow I can go buy a gun, and I can do whatever I want for a period of time. And that is just human reality, and that's always been human reality. I could, when I was a caveman, I could pick up a rock, and I could violate every social contract I wanted with that rock for as long as I could, you know? And the idea is that the reality is that we as beings should not want to violate the social contract because the social contract actually is beneficial for us as well. And if you are Superman, obviously you can make the argument that the social contract isn't necessarily beneficial for him, except it is because he's still a social being and he wants to socialize. And that's the thing. It's like, we don't not kill and do whatever we want because we're afraid of punishment. It's because we're afraid people won't like us.
Right, because his planet is all gone. The only surroundings that can give him a sense of identity is us.
Exactly. So that is where I think that essentially, I think what Zach wanted to do. And here's what I'll tell you. I think he wanted way more runway than they were going to give him. He's kind of the spruce goose of directors. It's like, yeah, he can fly for a short period of time, and he could get there if you give him enough runway. But, that's not the genre. The genre is you're making films. You want to do that, then you write War and Peace. You write a 1,000-page book, and people will love it. I bet you Zack Snyder could rate a 5,000-page book, and people would read the heck out of it. I'm sure it would be great and wonderful, and, you would spend that whole time reading it, and it would be wonderful, but that's not the genre that he works in. And
somehow he got to do it, and it worked out anyways. It was great.
Well, but I guess so. Like I said, I haven't finished it yet, and I'm sure it's good. That's always the thing. I never doubted it would be good. And like I said, I didn't mind the first one that much,
Yeah.
You rip on it, but you also rip on Thor: The Dark World, and you rip on Age of Ultron. People rip on these films all the time because,
there's a lot of silliness attached to it.
I'll rip on Batman vs. Superman a lot more than I rip on Dawn of Justice. I really felt Dawn of Justice, was a decent.
I think that's the other thing. It's impossible not to watch this movie and immediately be comparing it to the previous entry, and all the little missteps that they were able to avoid, and how appreciative I was that they did.
Yeah. It's you get a lot more characters. It was what I said. The most important thing this is of course our Batman Winter Soldier. Sorry, not our Batman.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is our Falcon Winter Soldier story, and we're talking Justice League. But Mozz isn't coming to our big Justice League roundtable next week.
Unfortunately, I will not be able to.
This is my gift to you, Mozz. You get to get your thoughts out now. So, welcome to the club. But that's the thing. It's like, it is a good story. It is a good film. But again, like I said, if I were to say, what would I rather watch? The Zack Snyder cut or Falcon Winter Soldier? I'm probably going to go with Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I'd probably go with the Snyder cut.
You go with that? Well, that's fine. I mean,
yeah. And, I hear they're releasing a black and white version like they did with Logan.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fine. Here's what I'm going to tell you about that. And
I wonder if they painted people blue for that.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't, and they're just basically. It's not a black and white version. It's a color correct. It's a digitally color corrected black and white. And whether or not they're going to,
it might be good. I'll watch it.
I'm going to tell you. Well, if they made the effort like they did on WandaVision to truly understand how black and white translates, if they just push the button. Because literally, there's a button you can push.
No, but
and the robot will make it black and white.
If Zack Snyder's strong suit is the visual aspect of this medium, I think he would. If he's doing this, there's an artistic intention behind it. It's not simply a money grab or a marketing ploy or
Well, and again, it may be his intention, but just because, like I said, and this is what I will say, is like, because it's his intention doesn't mean that it is something that he's going to succeed at with
right, no. All I'm saying is that his intention is pure, that it's there, and that I'm willing to give it a shot. If the intention really is to do something artistic and of artistic merit. And I think that's where his head is at. So whether he fails or not, I mean, like, if the intention is there, then I can view it from that lens, and I'm happy to do that.
And that's fair enough. And I'm glad he got the shot. I'm glad that he gets to say how he thinks this story should look. Whether or not it's the best story he could have told, I don't know. But what I will say is I'm far more excited about the next episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier than I am about whether or not we ever actually get a Justice League 2. Right,
because there's a whole other world and a whole mess of other stories that depend on this that are intertwined with this. So there's a lot more reason to care, certainly.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to see Aquaman go for a boat loan.
Go for a what?
A boat loan.
Oh.
I mean, it's an SBA loan. Which is fun for me because it is a Futurama reference as well.
That's
because Professor Farnsworth was the first person to invent a robot that could qualify for a boat loan. So, which is such an obscure thing, again, that they maybe didn't even intend, but just the idea of, I guess it's a boat loan, and, well, that's a Futurama reference, which is not their intention, but it's certainly the intention in my head.
Right, and to your point earlier about Vision going for a boat loan would have probably went a different route.
Yes, but although, as I've also pointed out, he could also just, gift of the Magi, cut off his pinky and say, there you go, there's like $8 million.
Right, here's your collateral.
There. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm made of vibranium. I'm literally worth $1 billion or like $8 billion, So I will give you my left hand.
Or essentially, here's the tip of my pinky as collateral. You can put it in your little safe deposit box, and when you're not looking, it'll phase in and out and come back to me, and you'll still think it's there.
Well, exactly. And for what it's worth, he can manipulate himself in that way. So He is the Vision. He's awesome. But, I forgot to mention that, which was the biggest revelation from Assembled was that none of what we think of the Vision is actually practical effects prosthetics. That it's all CGI added, which just shows the level of CGI. Which, again, I'm going to say, man, in part 2, that flashback of the final battle was really badly CGI'd.
What are we talking about?
Justice League, not the last battle, the first battle. The first time Darkseid comes, there was a lot of bad CGI. There was a lot of bad CGI.
Yeah. You definitely got a sense that some of it did not have a chance to get fully completed, and some of it was like, yeah.
Sure. I remember Tristan looking at, and like he kept on looking at Zeus and says, "Is that the guy from 500?" And I'm like, 300. Yes. He does look like him, and that is Zeus. And he did, and maybe that was an intentional throwback, but it also kind of felt
but
like...
also every guy from Williamsburg, Brooklyn looks exactly the same. There's an aesthetic that people expect when you're a Spartan or when you're a Greek god, whatever. They'll all look like that.
Or they're all just technically clones of Bucky Barnes.
Right. Oh, fair enough.
Fair enough. Just to bring it all back to the show we're actually supposed to be talking about. Okay. So, Mozz, any final thoughts on Falcon and Winter Soldier that you want to talk about this episode?
Man, they presented that dude's chin is just waiting to get clobbered. I can't wait till somebody smacks him in the chin.
He has a punchable face, and I've said that about this before.
Oh boy.
I think they intentionally cast him.
Mm-hmm.
Although, here's what I will tell you. Because when I first saw him, when they announced it, he had this big red beard. Because he's a ginger. Okay. And the thing is he looks so much like a character by the name of Dennis Duffy in the comics, who is D-Man. And he was Cap's partner at one point, and he has this habit of growing out his beard because he actually has a lot of mental health problems because of the augmentation program he went through.
Okay.
And so I wonder if they're going to... But he was also just this guy who was so much in love with Cap, where he was like, oh, yeah, Cap is like the best guy, and I want to work with him, and I want to be his best pal and his partner. And routinely, but he actually has a very sad story in the Marvel Universe. And I kind of think that they kind of said, well, what if we call him John Walker, but he's actually going to be Dennis Duffy? He's actually this guy who's just this real gung-ho, I want to be a part of the superheroes, but he's also just not the best guy, but he's actually always well-meaning and always kind and good. And is that really nerdy Captain America that you always, that you kind of think about with Cap, that big blue Boy Scout kind of Cap. But that he's just being manipulated by other people, and maybe that's where we're going to get his redemption arc. I really think that that's something they're going with that, but we'll see how it goes. I did want to talk about this. The most interesting thing is there is no post-credit scene in this, but there is a lot going on in the final credits. There is a lot going on. There is what looks like a proto sword logo. They flash up at some point that looks like maybe it's like if Sword was founded in the 60s or the 50s and, or the 80s, as we said. But one of the things, there is a reference to the Power Broker, where it says the Power Broker is watching, and the Power Broker is a character from the comics who actually created both John Walker and Dennis Duffy. So there is an interesting aspect there. But the real interesting thing for me is there is a quick flash of a black person's face. It's half of his face, which people say looks like the actor who was rumored to play Isaiah Bradley. But then again, it could also be Battlestar, who we might get later as the partner of John Walker, which would be cool if they bring in Battlestar. But it says, and it's a handwritten note, says subject 445. I thought it said 45666, but I think it's 45606 or something like that. But it's just this idea that, we might be going back to Palo Gordo, where the last sample of Steve Rogers' blood and the Super Soldier Serum was sent when they were trying to recreate the Super Soldier Serum. And of course, the Red, White, and Truth series, which tells of this attempt to recreate this Super Soldier Serum using African American soldiers against their will. And I do think we will get an Arnim Zola in this before the end of it. Because either in a flashback, they're going to get Toby Hooper coming back as Arnim Zola, working on that project as the guy who says, well, just use whatever subjects you can find. I don't need to know where they come from. I am Swiss. And to be fair, it is a Swiss bank they're robbing in Falcon Winter Soldier. So that, to me, is the biggest Easter egg, is that we may be getting an Isaiah Bradley story in this of what the government did when they didn't have Cap. And there's actually a really interesting door that can open there for what if later, which is what if Cap had gone to Palo Gordo, which is what the general tells him to do. Says, you're going to Palo Gordo with a bunch of scientists who are going to try and figure out how your super soldier serum works. And had they had him there, would they have needed to bring in these unwilling subjects? And would he have accepted Arnim Zola there as a person to be a part of it? There's a lot of things you can dissect if Cap goes to Palo Gordo and how the Palo Gordo experiments would have expanded from there. That's a what if. That's another series we're going to get on Disney Plus later. And this isn't one of them, but this is my pitch for it. I think it would be a great story to explore. Anyway, Mozz, people are listening to this on a podcast. They might be watching it on YouTube because Phil does put the live feed up on YouTube too, with all of our unfortunate comments that may happen that should have been cut but don't. But if people are listening to this as a podcast on their podcast streaming service, whether it's Apple or Stitcher or whatever, and hey, if you do that, why don't you give us a review? Say that we suck. I'd love it if you would say we suck, or maybe not that if you don't think we suck. If you think we don't suck, then say that. One or the other. Just pick a lane. You keep on listening. Maybe we don't suck, and maybe we say, hey, you know what? These guys do not suck. So do that in the review section of your podcast streaming service. But you may think we suck because you're using sub-quality headphones because you got them at the dollar store like I always do, because I'm a cheapie. I'll be honest. I don't buy good headphones because, I'm bad. I'm a bad person. You would not like me in personal life. And the fact of the matter is that if I had the sense God gave the end table, I would actually not just spend $1 every week on more headphones. I would just go to tweakedaudio.com, use the coupon code Southgate upon checkout, and get high-quality headphones that'll last years. But I don't do that because, I'm a dummy. Likewise, I can use that same coupon code Southgate at checkout on huntingkiller.com. I could have these really awesome mysteries delivered to my home. If you like to piece together what's going on in the story, you can get these mysteries delivered to your home. You help Michelle Gray solve a cold case, and you don't even have a background of what happened in the comics to fall back on. You just have to say, here are the facts. How do I piece them together and solve them with your own hardworking brain? And that sounds cool. But if it doesn't sound cool to you, and you want something a little more light, why don't you just go down to our show notes, click on the Amazon link, go to Amazon.com, buy literally anything in the world, have it delivered to your house, and it is going to cost you nothing to do it that way. Go down to our show notes and go. And it's going to help out the show. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book, a book written by the Southgate Media Group community about podcasting. And you can get it both in a digital version that you can read on your phone, on your Kindle, on your computer, whatever your blue light choice is for reading. And you can also get a hard copy to keep for the fall of society, which when society falls and you want to read about the history of podcasting, this will be a primary source, and you will want it. It will be on the test. And in the meantime, Mozz, if anyone doesn't need this stuff and they want to talk to you about it, or how much they loved the Snyder Cut, or how much they loved Winter Soldier, or how much they hated Superman 3, and then we know they're crazy.
How dare you?
How dare they? How can they reach you?
Oh, they can email me with their silly opinions at mozzmanzora@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzora. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way where I'm Mozz and Poz once said at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters. I live tweet things when I have a time and a chance and an interest. I used to live tweet DuckTales, a woohoo, but that is ended now until the next Disney Afternoon Universe show rises, as the Justice League did. At Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you have spent another evening or day or afternoon listening to our stories. The stories of men and women who fight to protect you and a fictional universe from all threats. Enough said.